Today we're going to learn how we classify living things. First, let's start with a question. Do you remember what all living things have in common? And the answer is that they all fulfill the vital functions. And do you remember what are the vital functions? Here's a hint. There are 3. Good job! The vital functions of living things are interaction, nutrition, and reproduction. Well, let's get down to business. There are many ways to classify living things, but the most common way is to group them by kingdoms. There are 5 kingdoms in total: animal, plant, fungi, monera, and protista, also called productista. We divide them in this way because the living things in each kingdom have common characteristics, and they're significantly different from the living things in other kingdoms. Let's take a closer look. The animal kingdom. The first kingdom we'll talk about is the animal. There are many, many, many animal species. I'm sure you know a lot of them. But did you know that human beings are also animals? Let's take a look at some characteristics of the animal kingdom. Animals are multicellular. That means that they're made up of more than one cell. Interesting. All animals are heterotrophic, which means that they eat other organisms to get the substances they need to survive. Another important characteristic of the animal kingdom is that almost all of them can move on their own. So, the characteristics of the animal kingdom are the following. They're multicellular, heterotrophic, and most of them can move on their own. The plant kingdom. The plant kingdom is characterized by the fact that all plants, whether they're trees, bushes, or flowers, are autotrophic. That means that they make their own food through a process called photosynthesis. They're also multicellular. Like we said before, it means that they're made up of more than one cell. But unlike animals, plants cannot move on their own. So the characteristics of the plant kingdom are as follows. They're multicellular, autotrophic, and do not move on their own. The fungi kingdom. The fungi kingdom is characterized by unicellular organisms, such as yeasts, or multicellular organisms like mushrooms and mold. This means that they can be made up of one cell or many cells. All fungi are heterotrophic. Do you remember what that means? That's right! Heterotrophic means that they cannot make their own food, so they eat other organisms. The thing that fungi like to eat the most are decomposing mushrooms. Ew! And would you say that they can move on their own? Of course not. Have you ever seen a mushroom walking? To sum up, the characteristics of the fungi kingdom are the following. They can be both unicellular and multicellular. They are heterotrophic, and they do not move on their own. the Monra Kingdom. The Monra Kingdom is characterized by the simplest and most primitive forms of life. The Monra Kingdom is made up of unicellular organisms. These organisms are so small that you can only see them with a microscope. Bacteria can either make their own food or take it from the environment where they live. This means that they can be autotrophic and heterotrophic. Now that's a cool fact. Did you know that there are some beneficial bacteria for humans? Like those that make yogurt, and others that are harmful that can cause diseases such as salmonella. Let's sum up the characteristics of the Monra Kingdom as the following. They're unicellular organisms. They can be made autotrophic and heterotrophic. And there are some beneficial bacteria and some that can be harmful to humans. The Protista or Productista Kingdom. And finally, we'll talk about the Protista Kingdom, also called the Productista Kingdom, which includes protozoa and algae. The organisms in this kingdom can be unicellular, like protozoa, and some types of algae, or multicellular, like many other types of algae. Both types are only visible through a microscope. In this kingdom, we can find heterotrophic beings, like amoeba, that eat other organisms, and also autotrophs, such as algae, that make their own food using photosynthesis. Let's take out our notepad for the last time. The characteristics of the Protista Kingdom, or Productista, are as follows. They can be unicellular and multicellular organisms. And they can also be autotrophic and heterotrophic. Wow, we learned so many things about the kingdoms of living things. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Until next time!